Shalom, my friends, and welcome to an Infinity the Game battle report. That's right, Durgama Takeover has begun. For those who aren't familiar, it is an online campaign being run by Corvus Bailey in collaboration with On Tabletop, and it's a global campaign. It will be running for, I think, a few weeks, something like that. They've done these in the past, they've been a blast, light role-playing, play games, do battle reports, and I am playing Haqqislam. On that note, big thanks to people in the community section of the channel who voted for that. I'm actually super stoked to be playing Haqqislam. I was kind of hoping I would be able to anyway, but to have some community endorsement is awesome. So, Haqqislam High Command is still being voted on democratically, which means that we don't have marching orders yet. So I've chosen to just play Rescue, because Rescue is a mission that I've actually wanted to play with Haqqislam and try out since the beginning of ITS 13, because Haqqislam's bike changes in ITS 13 I thought made it really interesting in the scenario. This is the list that I played this evening, and it's actually a list that I wrote when the Fireteam update dropped. This was a candidate list for Nova Corps, although of course I ended up playing Combined Army at that, but there's a lot that's going on here. In short though, it's an attempt to do two things. Firstly, it's using two different duos, so you can see an Asawira with AP Spitfire is duoed there with a Rafiq remote, and then two Mukhtars, a Red Fury and a Hacker, are duoed. The second thing this list is trying to do is be very, very hacker heavy, even by Haqqislam standards. Now, normally how Haqqislam hacks is kind of efficiently. It has a lean hacking game off the back of Bereed hackers kind of doing everything you need for a cheap price. They're BS12 pitches, they're not too expensive, you can have a great hacker and a great killer hacker with passable BTS. They're just good for not many points. In this list, I'm running two killer hacker Bereeds, and I'm getting my regular hacking from an 18-point Ghulam line infantry hacker, who is still whip 14, and the Mukhtar hacker, who is actually a fantastic hacker. Whip 14, no wound incapacitation, BTS 6, just a great all-round hacker. So that's two whip 14 regular hackers and two outstanding killer hackers form the background of this list's hacking. Of course, it has a guided missile remote. Technically speaking, I have on a pledge for at least a little while to not write any new lists with missile launchers, guided missile launchers in them. In my defense, I wrote this one like a month ago. Group 2 is very light and includes a Nadir as an ARO piece, but otherwise is a home for the guided missile launcher, a second biker, Libertos, that kind of thing. Group 1 is where all of the meat is. Only two significant gunfighters, the Asawira and the Mukhtar. It is hoping to do work asymmetrically, trade, fight with Salakia, that kind of thing. I think this is probably, my hope was this was a really good list for Rescue, because the bikers can deploy as non-impetuous, and then they are exceptionally fast, great pieces to run forward and grab civilians, and then the list can fight well and can defend kind of well. I would be playing against Nomads. So this list was put together and is an evolution of a list that a good friend of mine, Aaron, has been playing for a little while now. It's probably fair to say he's no longer new to the game, but he's only recently not new. He's breaking himself in really well. And there is some really cool stuff going on here that I think could be taken. Nomad players can take some inspiration from this. So there is one duo in this list, and it's a Cheer Killer MSV with Hollow Man multi-rifle. Those are expensive-ish pieces. Both of them are kind of affordable, but they're not cheap. But as a duo, they cover each other's weaknesses kind of well. There's some close combat. The Cheer Killer, when she's getting gang up bonuses with the Hollow Man, is a surprisingly capable melee fighter. It can shoot. It does not have a specialist in that link, but it does have a BS13 super jump pitcher, which is just like, it did well this game, and it's done very well for Aaron in the past. And then the other really interesting thing about this list is two Interventors. There is an Interventor Lieutenant with Hacking Device Plus, and then just a generic Interventor with Hacking Device Plus. This is fantastic. I never thought of this, and it's super cool. It turns out that Interventors are actually just good and not too expensive, so you can just take them, and that's totally fine. And if you have two Interventors, you solve the Nomad problem of wanting to take an Interventor Lieutenant to have a Whip 15 Lieutenant who can spend the LT order, but not wanting to take an obvious Lieutenant who gets scalpeled out on the first turn until they have a chance to Cyber Mask. So this was just fantastic. When he told me about this in his we were doing some list dojo like a week ago, I was blown away. But why did I never think of this? It's awesome, and it paid dividends this game, as we will see. Super, super cool. The rest of the list is really like Nomad asymmetric play. There's a guided missile launcher. There's a Vostok. There's a motorized bounty hunter as like a backup gun, which I really like. There's Nauf to shoot with. So there's kind of like, interestingly, there are 4 gun pieces in this list between the Cheer Killer, Nauf, the motorized bounty hunter, and the Vostok. He outfights me, which is super interesting. There's also 3 Morlocks in second combat group and 2 Morans. That combat group is sweet. Like, Morlocks are really good, by the by. I like this list a lot. I like this list a lot. Because we're playing in Durgama Takeover, in Rescue, technically speaking, we could each be taking a 0.5 SWC tag, but we do each get a Monstrucker in the list, and super interestingly, we both chose the 12.1 as our free Monstrucker. It turns out that we both valued a chain rifle and drop bears more than anything else any of the other Monstrucker profiles come with. We could have had a 17.360 visor rifle light shotgun Monstrucker, but it doesn't have drop bears and its templates are smaller, so we both just went with a 12.1. Go figure. My list was led by Saladin, so I had a whip 16 lieutenant to my opponent's whip 15. We both rolled off, and I won the LT roll, and I snap picked first turn because I was playing Haqqislam with a Fidei. So this is what the table looks like. This is after all deployment. I've just taken an aerial photograph for the purposes of doing this battle report. I've deployed my Asawira duo with Rafik over here. Zoleki was actually one of my reserves. She came down here once I was reasonably confident I wouldn't be putting her in danger. There's 1 Barid over here and 1 Barid over here, and the idea with that is that each of them can potentially move up the field along a number of different angles and lay down pitches in positions that might hurt my opponent. There's a Coom Rider over here. This is in kind of a blind spot for my opponent's deployment zone. It's just protected by this building from models that might go down on that rooftop, so I felt reasonably comfortable in that. The Mukhtar duo is forward deployed here and here, just up to the 16-inch line. You can see my opponent's civilians along that line there. The Labertos has come down here. We've got Saladin in this nook there, and the Fanus in that nook there. And then my free Monstrucker has come down here, just kind of hoping that it will be useful. There's also the Ghulam Hacker on the ground floor here, and you can't quite see it, but just in this bottom corner down here, watching the long table edges, is my guided missile remote. So in case there's a Carlotta Kowalski, it'll be able to fire a missile in this direction or any of these directions. It's quite a nice location, and I'm also pretty safe from anything that might come after me. My HVT has gone down here. For my opponent's part, he's kind of stacked this side. There's a Morlock back here behind this building. There's behind this sort of like barricade here, there's 1 Interventor, 1 Morlock, and a Cheer Killer, and will eventually be Nauf as the reserve drop. The Hollow Man is here. There's a Morlock behind the building. On this rooftop, we have the Vostok, Mary Problems, and then basically back here, you can't quite see it, but it's way back there, in a slightly exposed position, but with its chain rifle watching both Mary and the Vostok, is his Monstrucker. His motorized bounty hunter is down here. There is 1 Moran with its Crazy Koala actually behind it, which is good play against Fideis. In this garage over here, there's another Moran prone here with its Crazy Koala. Again, its Crazy Koala is back. Its Crazy Koala in particular is protecting the second Interventor, which is behind this building. And then there's a Flash Pulse remote and another Morlock. So this is fantastic. Oh, and the missile bot. So his missile bot is doing the same thing as my missile bot. It's up against a table edge, well behind this building. It's sort of back here. We'll see it in a second, watching these table edges. Now, this is an example of why I love this Interventor play. So firstly, both Interventors are defended. This one is defended by obscurity. It's kind of like hard to get to with anything. If I attack it, I won't be attacking anything else. And there is a Crazy Koala in zone of control of it, and a Moran. And then this Interventor over here is defended by a Crazy Koala and also a Morlock and a Cheer Killer. So because there are 2 Interventors, and I only have 1 Fidei, and even if I had 2 Fideis, the odds of making 2 infiltration rolls fall off pretty quickly, I couldn't just go for a decapitation strike. I couldn't just kill his lieutenant because I didn't know which one it was. So what I chose to do instead was this. So slightly very blurry photo, but what you can see here is my Hassassin Fidei. It's deployed in this nook here. It's out of line of fire of everything. Now has reserve dropped down there to watch it, make sure I don't come out of this corner. But I've deployed to see the missile launcher. And what I'm doing here is kind of expanding a little bit on my philosophy I developed with Combined Army and asymmetric engagements, which is actually really figuring out what is the piece that you can kill that will do the most damage. And in this case, I think that piece is the guided missile remote. Now, interestingly, my opponent actually reckoned that wasn't the case. He's reasonably comfortable with it if it dies. And in retrospect, looking at his list, identifying how many guns he has, yeah, I think he's right. But I couldn't go after his lieutenant, so this is the next best thing. But genuinely, he has more guns than I do. He has kind of enough guns. And he did play the entire game. In fact, we would both play the entire game with 0 spotlight kills. Nevertheless, the Fidei has come down here, and now has reserve deployed, actually just to shoot it if it runs into close combat, but I would end up using my shotgun to make the kill. Very quickly, and for the sake of it, here is just some pictures of my deployment zone. You can see this Haqqislam Barid. These planter beds, we are playing as just if they are universally silhouette to height. The Gulam Hacker is down here. You can see Saladin proxied by Carlos Bostria Sunsei miniature on that rooftop. And then here's a slightly blurry aerial photograph of my second part of my deployment zone. You can see the Mukhtar team on the building here. Here's another shot of my opponent's deployment zone, which I mostly just took because his miniatures are awesome. I love his paint job. This purple and white Nomad style has come together really, really well. And there's there'll be no shot of it this game because it died very early, but he's using a Jim Raynor 3D print as his Monstrucker, and you can see here probably a similarly familiar looking sniper as his now, which is super awesome. So I have first turn, and I have no impetuous because the bikes are deployed as not impetuous. So the first thing that we do is that the Haqqislam Fidei activates. It declares Discover against the Vertigo Zond, and that is just to reveal the Haqqislam Fidei so that my opponent doesn't get to hold his ARO and decide what he wants to do. He dodges with dodges with everything. He dodges with everything nearby. He spotlights the hell out of me with 2 whip 15 and 1 whip 14 hacker, Merry Problems up here. And I put 2 surprise attack out of cover shotgun shells into the Vertigo Zond and kill it. Now, super interestingly, the Hollow Man makes his dodge on a 7 and the Morlock makes his dodge on a 10, and both of them come out here to pin the Fidei in place. And this is actually something that we talked about after the game and is an interesting point, which is when to stop the attack. When do you decide you've got enough, stop pushing your luck, and let the miniature that you're leaving in that position be your opponent's problem to solve for next turn? This would actually come up a few times in this game. Now, in this case here, with the Haqqislam Fidei, I was 100% comfortable to just leave it there. I would have loved my opponent to have failed both of those dodge rolls so I could re-impersonate. It didn't happen. That's fine. But his guided missile bot is dead. I've done my work in one order, and if I do anything with the Fidei now, I might kill the Morlock, I might wound the Hollow Man, but I will lose the Fidei because there's a pistol, a chain colt, a combi rifle, like there's all of these weapons pointing at me and I'm targeted. The Fidei he's done his work. He's done God's work, he's killed the piece that I was concerned about, it took one order, so we move on to the rest of the turn. And in fact, this would pay off extraordinarily because the Fidei would go on to, spoiler alert, survive the entire game. So the remainder of my first turn is spent mostly with the Mukhtar duo. The Asawira duo I had some hopes for, but there wasn't really anything that I wanted to do with it on that turn. So what we had is the second combat group is the biker just moves up to here, pots some smoke into this alleyway underneath just beyond the bridge basically, so that it avoids line of fire to the Vostok. Then I activate the Mukhtar duo. I declare a cautious move, or some movement anyway, to get the Mukhtar into or underneath. It's on a bridge and the smoke is sort of like just beyond the bridge, but I get behind the smoke. And from there, actually maybe I needed to spend 2 orders to do this, but anyway, because I'm not sure a cautious move is fine because I would have stood up and been seen. But the Mukhtar gets into the smoke and starts wreaking a merry hell. So the first thing that it does is it can vault up onto the bridge balustrade to get line of fire. It can't see Mary the Vostok is standing, but it can see the Monstrucker. And I want to kill the Monstrucker more than anything else because I don't want that Vertigo Zond in the game. One volley, 4 dice on 16, super easy. Monstrucker goes down, and from there we start taking some more fights. So it's exposed targets first. I'm in smoke. I don't need to, deal with priority targets. I can deal with the ones that are least likely to hurt me. So we've got this standing. This Hollow Man, remember, has dodged. It is standing. I shoot it. I put 4 rounds into it. It fails its dodge. It passes 3 of its saves, and it guts prone behind the dumpster over here. That's fine. Did a wound. Perfectly serviceable. I then shoot the Vostok. Again, I think I miss a lot of shots this time. Put 2 hits into it. Passes 1 save. Goes prone. No, passes both saves, rather. But it goes prone because it can't win that face-to-face roll. And then I move out along here, keeping the smoke in between me and everyone to engage Nauf. Nauf is shooting. I shoot Nauf. Nauf is shooting on a 10. Nauf will ignore my mimetism and will treat the smoke as a poor visibility zone, which it reduces the penalty by 3, but that's still a 3-point penalty. So Nauf is on 10s. The Mukhtar is on 13s. I think I land 3 hits on him, passes all of his saves and cuts back into cover. And that's basically a turn reasonably well done. I would like to have scored more kills, but the kills that I have scored are kind of important. And I've put some models like back. Basically, I've pinned Nauf back. I've wounded the Hollow Man. I've killed the Monstrucker and the Vertigo Zond. And there's just a little more that I can do. So I have just enough orders left. Zalekia uses her irregular order just to drive up here and occupy this space, which she'll be hoping to attack from next turn. And then I do a couple of movements. So this Bereed jumps over the planter bed here and moves forward again. And then I do a coordinated order where this Bereed moves up to here, and then this Bereed just peeks his head out and back, and I just move some Mukhtars, basically. And then I declare ballistic skill attack. So the 2 Bereeds having targetless weapons can each shoot, and so I get 1 pitcher down there, and I get 1 pitcher down here. Now, I've kind of overextended at this point. I've got exactly 1 irregular order left. I do spend it on this Bereed. Moves up to here. Lightning's merry problems. 3 dice on 17s versus 1 dice on 11s. Handily win the face-to-face roll, blow her brains out, knock her unconscious, and there is my third kill for the turn. That's not actually an incredibly productive turn, but the pieces that I've killed are important. I've killed one of my opponent's pitchers. I've pinned a few of his elements back. I'm not massively exposed. None of my pieces are on particular Overwatch. The fact that he totally spanged all of the saves on Nauf, and all of the saves bar 1 on the Hollow Man who was in the open, kind of hurts a little bit, but you don't get to complain when you are firing a Red Fury and people make armor rolls. It's a damage 13 weapon. It's a very cheap high burst gun. That is the cost of having a very cheap high burst gun. So fair enough. Not as many kills as I would like, but the kills were important. My opponent begins his first turn, and he's looking basically to cauterize some of the bleeding here and set himself up for success. So this Morlock just impetuouses forward, this Morlock impetuouses forward. We actually have a bit of a takesy-backsy here where the Morlock that has dodged line of fire of the Fidei can move into close combat. But we realize after my opponent makes the move that I can arrow with a shotgun, hang the template sideways, and clip the Hollow Man, which if we had done it would have killed him. So we just, oh shit, nobody realized that, just back that one up. And my opponent then goes about trying to deal with the Fidei using his regular order pool. Now this is part of where that I didn't push my luck before I made the Fidei your problem just pays off hugely. The Morlock tries to kill the Fidei. If the Fidei is targeted, thanks to spotlights, the Morlock is trying to force a dodge, fire his pistol, the Fidei is surviving. My opponent does not want to just move the Hollow Man out immediately because he doesn't want to lose the Hollow Man. He thinks he's very important. Nauf can't get an easy line of fire. He ends up actually hanging the Vostok over the side of the building to get plunging fire down onto me. I can see it. I get an arrow. I crit my smoke dodge. So through all of that, the Fidei lives and it won't die for the entire game. And there's no missile left, so he can't just missile strike the thing. And he doesn't want to... He actually runs the last order of the turn, trying to deal with the Fidei, is to run the Morlock into close combat, and the Fidei wins the face-to-face roll. So the Fidei has now killed 2 models, with one order and absorbed a ton. So fantastic work. Paradise awaits you in the afterlife, my friend. Not a lot otherwise happens this turn until my opponent marshals his forces and begins a Red Fury bounty hunter run. So this Red Fury back here, who by the by has rolled a MSV1, moves out. Oh, I should mention, this Morlock, moves, trips an ARO from my Assassin Nadir, who is up here, and I missed the Flamen Spear shot. That's a shame. Oh well. Probably should have held this back. I'm actually not sure it was the best position for it, but I wanted to watch this angle there. And I wanted to have line of fire to like all of the... this was the only position where I was confident I could see all of the rescuees. So long range shot that missed, and then out comes the bounty hunter. It zips around here, kills this repeater, zips around here, kills this Bereed, zips up to here, just out of cover, kills the Nadir, and then it comes around here and kills Zelekia and dies to the mine. This was a little bit of a case of like, I couldn't make my saves, but my opponent could make all of his. But eventually the mine killed the bounty hunter. But that's the rest of my opponent's turn. That, honestly, like if we think about what he's accomplished there, he's killed 1, 2, 3 pieces, which is more than I killed in his turn. It's only the fact that he's down a Morlock trying to deal with the Fidei that he's even remotely behind. So this was a very well executed counter assault, and the fact that Zelekia is dead probably saved the game for him, because if Zelekia had not died, she would have run up this direction, does not care about the crazy koala because she's shock immune. Hopefully she takes the damage or dodges, but she's going to get up onto this rooftop, kill the Moran, and kill the Interventor. And that Interventor, it turned out, was my opponent's lieutenant. But that alternate future didn't happen because she was dead. This was nevertheless an interesting point. When the bounty hunter here killed the Nadir, it could have just stopped. It wasn't in trigger area of the mine at that point. It had to enter trigger area to engage Zelekia. It wasn't threatened by anything if it retreated or if it went into suppressive fire. It could have done nothing. Now, it would probably have died next turn because Zelekia would probably have killed it, or that would have drawn her kind of away from the attack run on his lieutenant. But it would have been my problem to solve. Now, I think it was the right call to make that last kill. It defanged a mine, which would be relevant later in the game. It killed Zelekia, which was relevant. But if he failed that, it would have been very feels bad, and he could have done nothing and made me be the one that spent orders on it. So, very interesting, right? That was a point where he could have chosen not to push his luck, in the same way that I'd chosen not to push my luck with the Fidei, and maybe he would have been rewarded for it. I think the Zelekia kill is fine. I think taking a one-on-one fight that you know will do some damage against an important piece, totally okay, but just an interesting question. I begin my second turn, and it is time to do some more work. And this was probably the best turn that I had. The Mukhtar duo is still on this rooftop, and they dismount and they come for a walk. So the hacker moves up in this direction, and the Red Fury will move out to shoot Nauf again, and Nauf will make all of their saves again and fall back into cover. And then we will begin moving in this direction. So the duo will actually split at this point, and the Red Fury Mukhtar will come this direction, and the Hacker Mukhtar will come this direction. So that the Hacker is over here and ready to start picking up collectibles, and the Red Fury is ready to start attacking. I do the Hacker first, into base contact with one, and then move in this direction, into base contact with the other. And in that way, we easily pick up 2 rescuees, and we're ready to begin moving back towards my table edge. Now, if I wanted to be really cute at this point, I could actually run into this corner and try doing some spotlighting, because I'm forgetting that last turn, the Khum Rider actually made an attack all the way up here and killed the Moran and triggered a Crazy Koala. Never mind, let's pretend I remember that. But I actually just wanted to pull it back. I think I could have gotten, say, the Cheer Killer into zone of control and not the Interventor spotlighter and dropped a missile, but I kind of wanted to consciously play the scenario. Not actually sure that was right. I think in retrospect, I could have afforded to hang out here for a turn and do some more damage, hit my opponent harder, but there felt like there could be some dividends in just getting the civilians back. In any case, the Red Fury would do some work. It would come to here, it would see the Vostok hanging on the rooftop, and it would light it all the way up and kill it. I think it took maybe 2 orders to take the Vostok down, but because its base was so large, there was no way that it could guts into cover anywhere because it couldn't physically get around the corner or up onto the rooftop. It was in the open, I was in the open, but I had that fight all my way and finally punched damage through with the Red Fury. Most of the rest of this turn is the Mukhtar running all the way back to here and leaving 1 civilian in the dead zone and 1 civilian in my deployment zone, and just pulling this Mukhtar back here. Now, this is kind of the like, did I play this correctly? Because if I'd hung out here, done some spotlight attacks, dropped some missiles on some things, there's a car back there that I could have put the Mukhtar in suppressive fire behind and really, the Red Fury in suppressive fire behind, and really pinned this entire area back. By choosing to retreat, I left it open for my opponent to counterattack, and I should maybe have pushed my luck for a turn and left pieces there, not least because a hacker in this nook covering all of the space that a suppressive fire piece might engage feels pretty strong. So I think I missed an opportunity there, but this is my first game as Haqqislam in like 5 weeks, so, or longer, possibly like 6 weeks. So I'm going to own that, but there's some finesse to develop with this list. For my opponent's part, he feels like he's running out of guns at this point, but he has to do his best. And he makes, again, some pretty decent attacks. On the left flank, the Morlock just runs up this direction. I dodge into CC with the Asawira. The Asawira gets bricked by the EMCCW. And then the Morlock comes around the corner and dies to a shotgun, which I'll take that, to be perfectly honest. Not the best trade, losing the Asawira, but it's a thing. The Asawira is unconscious by the end of the face-to-face roll and isolated and immobilized. And the Hollow Man and Shear Killer team come out this direction. Now they'll move up this way. I've moved my Libertos forward at this point, so it's there and the Mukhtar is there. And they'll just sort of get forward, and then the Hollow Man actually runs into CC and drops a chain cult on everyone, and I nanopulsar and shotgun him back. And he does not die despite being wounded. He takes 2 damage, 13 hits, passes both saves. I fail both of mine. The Libertos goes dogged. And at that point, he says, you know what? I'm done there for the turn. The Mukhtar's in CC. That's fine. Going to leave that there. The Libertos is dogged. If I do anything else, all I will do is give the Libertos a chance to dodge and lay mines or be annoying or whatever. Nope, not happening. So pretty much all he kills this turn is the Asawira, but that's not a bad trade. Pushes forward, sets up a little bit, does his best. Over the course of this game, I have been using Saladin's command tokens and Strategos 2 to pull combat groups together, and by this turn 3, basically everything is shoved into one combat group between the command tokens and his order doing that twice. But I don't have any guns left. Mukhtar is in close combat, and I don't think I can pull it out. I don't have any close combat left, and the Asawira is bricked and unconscious, but I do have a massive scenario lead. I've also gotten a couple of CC kills, and I think I'm actually, a Predator is my classified, and I have gotten 3 CC kills. Oh, I get my 3rd CC kill based on how I play this turn out. Because I got 1 kill with the Moran, so 1 kill with the Fidei against the Morlock, and I don't remember what the other one was, but I'm sure that I did. So, it was probably a coup de grace. I suspect it was a coup de grace, which you can do Predator with in ITS 13, only because that's the Spanish rule, and in 2021, Heloise said that they would change the ITS 13 English version, and then they never did, but he did say that was the change, so I guess that's how we play it. This game is very hard sometimes. That is one of my least favorite rules to know. Anyway, I do not think I played the 3rd turn correctly, although I do ultimately end up winning the game. I feel like I have no guns left. This Moran has moved up onto this building and is kind of just standing there as an ARO piece. It actually fought the Monstrucker. I passed my save and I gutsed over the building, so I'm hanging prone off of the side of the building here. I spend basically the entire turn moving the Monstrucker down to there, around to here, coup de gracing for my 3rd Predator kill, the Morlock, and then fixing the Asawira, which had regenerated the turn previously. The Asawira then moves around to here to fight the Moran, and just does so ineffectually for 3 orders. That's the end of the turn. This was not a particularly great turn. I haven't really identified what the threats my opponent is genuinely going to be putting against me are, which is it's this duo over here. I haven't freed up the Mukhtar. I should probably have just spent my entire turn spewing out drop bears, putting everything that I could into suppressive and calling it a day. All I needed to do is protect this Mukhtar back here, and there was no way my opponent had the orders to grab all of the pieces that he needed and pull all the way back. He was not... I had a lead on classifieds. There was no way for my opponent to recover, provided I just stopped anything from happening to this Mukhtar. Instead, I got cute trying to deal with a Moran. I spent tons of time recovering a piece that then didn't do anything. I should have just stood everything up, put everything in suppressive fire, and made it my opponent's turn. And there was no way he had enough orders left to accomplish what he needed to accomplish, which was to do this. Now, firstly, he begins his 3rd turn. He jumps the cheer killer around. She has unopposed. There's no AROs because I have nothing watching. She gets into close combat, and cheer killers, by the way, are like kind of fine in close combat, and cheer killers with burst bonuses are totally fine in close combat. He's broken the link to do this. She gets into close combat. The Hollow Man's in no danger. It takes her 2 orders, but she puts the Mukhtar down, and the duo is free, or the duo, those models are free to move. She'll actually stay there. The rest of the turn is on the Hollow Man. Now, at this point, dice let my opponent down. The Hollow Man moves forward, and what it's trying to do is it's trying to put a picture down here, because my Mukhtar is here. And if you isolate a hacker, or if you isolate a model that has civilians in Civivac, it breaks the Civivac state. And civilians that are not in Civivac are worth nothing for any scoring criteria. Now, it is fortunate for me that opponent rolls a 17 and then a 20 for his picture, which is very bad luck. Those dice that he has been using the entire game to make his armor rolls have turned foul on him by continuing to roll very high. But if he had made those 2 rolls, he has one regular order, one of those 2 rolls. He has potentially one regular order and definitely one lieutenant order to oblivion my Mukhtar hacker. We rolled that out. If he'd had even just 1 order to do it, he easily succeeds. Oblivion punches through my Mukhtar's BTS 6, breaks the synchronization, and at that point my opponent has secured the HVT, thanks to the cheer killer that is over here next to my HVT, and my opponent has a very, very small number of orders left to potentially get into base contact with and synchronize this civilian, which could have made it a draw. Now, as it actually happened, obviously both picture shots missed, which meant at the end of the game I had